and welcome to the Planning Committee, 18th of July 2023. Warm welcome to councillors, ladies and gentlemen, members of the audience, members of the esteemed press, officers, and those that may be joining us from home. So the first item of tonight's business is apologies. Do we have any apologies? Councillor Sweeney.
Councillor Burnett Faulkner, and I'm subbing for him, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Do we have any other further apologies? Apologies. So it brings us on to declarations of interest, item 2 on the agenda. Any members here tonight got any declaration of interest, please, in tonight's agenda? And I don't see any declarations. So that's item 10. So moving on to item 3, minutes of the previous meeting. Do I see support from that? Can you all vote if that's a true and accurate record? Can I see a show of hands now? If not, please make it known. I see that's unanimous. Thank you. Right, that brings us on to the first substantial item of tonight's business. Application for minor development, Kidsgrove Pentecostal Church, The Avenue, Kidsgrove. And I believe we've got a presentation on this. Over to officers.
Permission for the conversion and change of use of what was formerly Kidsgrove Pentecostal Church. It was that 12 supported living apartments. Members deferred the previous application. We were awaiting an independent viability appraisal on the financial contributions. That has now been received by officers and considered, and we concur with those results, and that the scheme cannot support any level of financial contribution. The building's located just beyond the urban area of Kidsgrove. It's also within the green belt and is a locally listed building on the council's list of registered buildings. So it's a non-designated heritage asset. So the plan on the screen here shows the proposed elevations and the proposed site plan. Externally, the building is largely unaltered with some minor changes to door openings and the installation of roof lights. Amendments have been received during the course of the application that have implemented more traditional door openings and reduced the number of roof lights from the advice of the Conservation Officer. A new vehicle access point is also proposed, so members may be able to see on the screen here. This is the new point of access to the church. Currently, the access is in this corner of the site here. That is proposed to be stopped up as part of the scheme. Cycle storage and bin storage is in the southeast corner, and then parking provisions along the frontage here adjacent to the footpath. So on the screen now the floor plan. So the units are split between 2 floors, and there is a communal living space as well. This was part of an amendment secured by officers to ensure that the double height sort of vestry was retained as part of the character of the building. So that will be for use of all occupants. There's also provision for a staff room and store facilities as well in the building. So this photo on the screen is taken from the outer bend of the avenue, looking towards the front elevation of the building. The new access point is proposed just beyond this lamppost here on the screen, and the existing access is here. This is looking at the core of the site, just at the junction with Boathorse Road. Again, you can see the existing access and how the building is sort of screened by the vegetation and the
Oh,
Third time's a charm. Let's see if that works. So the principle of development is acceptable. It's in a sustainable location just outside the Kids Grove. Plenty of accessible walking routes into the town centre, public access to transport. It would bring back into use a locally listed building, making a positive contribution to supporting the longevity of that building. There are no issues with residential amenity, and it meets all the relevant exceptions for development within the Greenbelt, given that it's the reuse of an existing building. Concerns have been raised by members of the public in relation to highway safety matters, particularly parking. However, there are no objections from the Highway Authority on this. The level of parking on the site is policy compliant, and the visibility from the revised access is now considered appropriate. We have, as I mentioned at the start, undertaken an independent review of the viability case for the scheme, and that's concluded that it cannot support any level of financial contribution. We're satisfied that that appraisal was robust and thorough, and on that basis have accepted those conclusions. So on that basis, we are recommending approval for the scheme. Thank you.
Of the application here tonight, Mr. Rob Duncan. Rob, you have 5 minutes to speak. You'll be reminded after 4 minutes of the minute remaining. You may speak when you wish to take part. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Rob Duncan. I'm a planning consultant representing the applicant this evening. The application before you, as you've heard, seeks consent to convert a locally listed former Pentecostal church to 12 supported living apartments. The apartments are to be occupied by people with varied mental health needs who may be leaving residential or other higher support settings, but who still require some level of support. The occupants will each hold their own tenancy, with an external care operator providing support to them to help develop their confidence and skills to enable the tenants to achieve their goals and move on to more independent settings. The National Planning Practice Guidance confirms that the provision of appropriate housing for people with disabilities, including supported houses, is crucial in helping them to live safe and independent lives. Providing suitable housing can enable disabled people to live more independently and safely, with greater choice and control over their lives. And without accessible and adaptable housing, disabled people risk facing discrimination and disadvantage in housing. Providing opportunities for independent living via supported housing also saves on health and social care costs. Policy ASP 6 of the core strategy confirms that a positive approach will be taken towards development for supported and special needs housing. Policy H13 of your local plan also confirms that applications for supported housing will be encouraged. Your own housing needs assessment for the borough also acknowledges a growing need for supported housing and confirms that this need is forecast to increase into the future. The submitted proposal will make a valuable contribution towards the stock of supported housing and in turn help the occupants live safe and independent lives whilst reducing demands on other health and social care services. The need for this type of development consequently carries substantial weight in favour of planning permission being granted. Further benefits will arise as a consequence of providing this locally listed building with a viable end use that will help to sustain it into the future. Without a viable end use, the building risks falling into eventual dereliction. Your conservation officer supports the proposal, commenting that the scheme is a positive outcome for the building and that will bring it back into a viable use. The scheme before you, as the officers have confirmed, also constitutes an appropriate form of development in the Greenbelt. Much of the objection to this application has focused on concerns about highway safety and a lack of parking. This type of development does not command the same level of parking as one would otherwise expect with a regular apartment scheme. Your adopted parking standards set out specific parking requirements for supported housing, which equates to 1 space per 3 units of accommodation. In this case, that equates to a total parking requirement of 4 spaces, which this development provides. The proposal also takes the opportunity to close up the existing access located closest to the road junction. The site also occupies a highly sustainable location that's within walking and cycling distance of local day-to-day services in Kidsgrove Town Centre, which lies less than 500 metres away. A dedicated cycle store is also to be provided on the site, and there are also public transport connections available on the avenue a short distance from the site, which offer regular connections with the town centre as well as Hanley. I draw particular attention to the consultation response of the local highway authority, who raised no objections to the proposed development. Consequently, this proposal will not result in severe residual impacts to highway safety, that being the test that must be applied under paragraph 111 of the National Planning Policy Framework. And consequently, there is no reasonable basis for refusing this application on highway safety grounds. As you've heard from the case officer, the application has demonstrated that the local authority's request for financial contributions towards public open space would render the scheme unviable, and our viability report has been independently assessed, which endorses that conclusion. Having regard to the benefits of this proposal in delivering supported housing, the benefits of bringing this locally listed building into beneficial and viable reuse, the support of the Conservation Officer and the response and objections from the local highway authority, I submit to you that there are compelling reasons for you to support the application, and I would therefore request that you grant planning permission. Thank you.
Can you resume your seat, please? Okay, I will now open the item up for debate. Councillor Fear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For one terrible moment, I thought the little battery wasn't working, but no matter. I'm happy to move this application, Mr. Chairman. It seems to me that most important consideration here is that we've got a building which is in danger of substantial neglect over time and structural damage. This is a proposal that will bring it back to life. It preserves and respects the fabric of the building. I think that our officer has pointed out that some of the internal arrangements have also been have been looked after in that way. Conservation like it. It is a little bit disappointing that there is not going to be a financial contribution, but we've had the independent test on that. It's equally perhaps a little bit disappointing that we can't have more parking, but I'm happy to agree with the speaker that for the sort of development we've got here, this seems appropriate. And overall, I think this is a positive contribution to Kidsgrove, so I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Fear, and I share your view in terms of not attracting extra money for the provision of 106 funding. And I also agree with the fact that it's partly due to the nature of the build that I think the special circumstance could be satisfied. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. I'm minded to agree with a lot of what Councillor Fear said. I do note the application's been called in by two councillors. Nobody seems to be jumping up and down to admit that they were the councillor that called this in. I understand and I know that our protocol doesn't require councillors who call in an application to then speak on it, but it's very difficult for me to understand in a rounded way the reasons for the call in without somebody coming to explain them to us. And I say that for the benefit of all councillors. I've no idea who the councillors are who have called this in, but I second the motion that's been moved by Councillor Fear.
Members wishing to speak on this. Councillor Gordon.
Begin by agreeing with the two previous speakers. It seems to me to be an excellent use of the building, and I'm delighted it's being brought back into such a socially important use. I do have one very small question, sort of buried in the report, is a reference to a hedge, a conifer hedge between the site and I think Bourne Cottage. Now, I know that hedges, and I think the height is currently given as 3 to 4 meters. I know these hedges can cause some dispute, and I wonder if the officers can advise who will be responsible for maintaining the hedge. Didn't see any reference in the report or in the conditions, but I think it might be good to sort of get that clarified before approval is given, because these things can cause some dispute. Thank you.
In terms of ownership, that and maintenance, that would be a civil matter between whoever is in ownership of that boundary. The landscape section have considered the proposals in terms of impact to visually significant trees and hedgerows. They're content that there would be no sort of conflict between the use and the existing property that's there. There is a condition recommended on the application for a landscaping scheme. Obviously, that will give a little bit further detail in terms of new planting and retention of existing, but in terms of maintenance, that would fall on the owner of that boundary to maintain.
For that, any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Hodges.
Can I just ask, is there anybody from the Borough Council recycling and waste collection teams made any comments regarding the access for the trucks being able to collect the waste? Thank you.
Had any comments? The provisions on site, I think there's 2 general waste Euro bins and 2 recycling units in the corner of the site. I think it's clear from the dimensions that you wouldn't be able to get a refuse wagon within the site. There are staff members that will be present to potentially assist with that and bringing those out to the roadside for collection. But there is, notwithstanding that, a condition recommended on the report to secure details of waste collection facilities.
You happy with that response, councillor? Okay, I don't see any other hands up at the moment, so we'll take that Councillor Fear has proposed and Councillor Holland has seconded. Can I see a show of hands, please, in favour of the application as printed in the report? And that's unanimous. Thank you, members. That brings us to item 5 on the agenda, application for minor development, 23 to 25 Merrill Street, Newcastle. I believe you have a presentation on this.
Thank you. Just a short presentation on this one, just to refamiliarise any members with the site. Apologies, bear with me. Okay. So this application is a resubmission of a previously permitted scheme for the change of use of the building to offices combined with a circus and arts workshop and the exhibition centre. The previously considered permission granted use for the change of use and some minor frontage alterations to the building to accommodate that. So the only change in this application is to the hours of operation. The previous scheme permitted hours between 9 to 5 for both uses. We're now seeking separate hours for the 2 uses. So the offices would be open between the hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, 10 till 4 p.m. on Sundays. However, the exhibition space would be open from the hours of 9 till 10 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and then 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays and bank holidays. It's within the town centre. There are similar uses that open to those sorts of hours. It's to be expected in that sort of location, and with no objections from environmental health and no concerns in relation to amenity, officers are recommending approval on that basis.
Thank you for that. In which case, I'll open it up to debate now. Members wishing to speak. Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got nothing to say really in debate. I just suggest we just move it. It's the only alteration is ours. It's in line with the other businesses in the town centre, and I can't see any problem with it at all. Thank you. So I'll propose it.
Thank you, Councillor Sweeney. Councillor Holland.
Send in the clowns, Mr. Chairman. Second Councillor Sweeney's motion. We have discussed this previously in committee, and I know about the important contribution this is likely to make to the town centre. So the resolution is printed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Chairman. I can't remember this being discussed previously. Perhaps it was before I joined the council, so maybe this is the first time I've had an opportunity to actually look at this. And I've just got one question. The opening hours, are they opening hours for members of the public? Right.
Yes, yeah. So the intended change to the hours is to allow for the exhibition space to run exhibitions later on into the evening through to the weekends. The office hours remain as per recommended previously, which is 9 to 5.
Thank you.
Members wishing to speak on this, I think it's personally think it's a good idea to make sure that the centre of Newcastle is a vibrant centre, and I think this adds a little bit of colour to the landscape, so to speak, a little bit of diversity. So we've had it formally proposed by Councillor Sweeney and seconded by Councillor Holland. Can I see a show of hands, please, in terms of support? And that is unanimous, so that item is clearly passed. Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda is an update on Five Bogs Cottages. Keele members will have seen in their information pack an update on that. Do we have another update other than that? So can members support the recommendation that the information printed? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I share the disappointment in the report that the drafting officer has placed regarding the difficulty not only in arranging this meeting, but on securing this meeting, which has been requested by residents based on concerns over plans and various issues with regards to the drainage and Severn Trent. That Severn Trent decided to turn up and not alert officers, so officers could ask the questions that they have promised residents they would ask, and really has eroded quite a lot of faith that residents have in this process, because we felt like we were getting somewhere. And for Severn Trent to pull this stunt is quite embarrassing for them, and certainly doesn't help us with building trust with the residents. I guess my question to officers is, first of all, do they feel that they have had opportunity? Is there anything that they would have felt that they would have wanted to raise at such a visit that they are now unable to raise? That's the first question. And secondly, do they feel that they will be able to get enough information from a report, having been denied the opportunity to visit the site with Severn Trent, to be able to make a determination that the planning condition has been satisfied?
Through you, Chair, again, share your frustration as an elected member that we weren't able to meet with Severn Trent. We were disappointed in the fact that they did notify us that they were going to attend the site, but then actually didn't tell us when they were attending. So that was a frustration. I know they did meet with one of the neighbours who was able to communicate their concerns as well. In answer to your question, I don't think there was anything specifically that we would have intended to raise at that meeting, but we would have obviously been, it would have been helpful for us to be party to any discussions that did take place, and any issues that would have been raised. So yes, concur with that particular point. We are looking forward to seeing the report now and what that says, because obviously that is key to ensuring that there is compliance.
Councillor, you satisfied with that explanation? So do we recommend that the information be received with the additional input from councillors and our officers tonight? All those in favour, please raise their hands now. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, brings us up to item 7. Disclosure exempt information. I know of none. Do we have any? No. No urgent business. I've been made aware of any urgent business tonight. So in that case, this is a very short meeting. I'll call proceedings to a finish and a conclusion. So thank you very much for your attendance tonight. Thanks to those that are joining us online, and have a safe journey home.